Let's talk about President Donald Trump's economic impact for a minute. We've seen Donald Trump's approval ratings drop within his first 100 days. And if you're like me, you live in an area where you've seen Donald Trump supporters flip in real time. I got Donald Trump supporters that are literally taking down their flags off their houses in my neighborhood. And that's because his economic policies that he spoke of before the election are turning out to be trash. And that's the best way to put it. A lot of people ask me the question is, how do these economic policies really impact our life? And the best way I could say that is that it's not good. The positions that Donald Trump is taking is you take those positions if you're in a position of leverage. And unfortunately, we're seeing traditional media be pushed out of the White House briefing room and replaced with these podcasters. And because these podcasters are being pushed in there while Donald Trump is talking economic policy and all these other important things, they're just sitting there taking it as law and nobody's asking the question. So when this stuff gets put out there, he thinks he sounds good until traditional media starts to get in front of him and starts to ask real tough, pointed, and pressing, dare I say, pressing questions. We've seen a lot come from Trump in these first 100 days, and a lot of the economic policies are no good for our everyday life. Let's take a look at some. The biggest thing that has happened is these tariffs, but we're going to get to the tariffs in a minute. I want to talk about something else. The de minimis loophole allowed for goods and products to be shipped into the United States and avoid any type of extra tariff, taxes, fees, regulations, what have you, as long as the product was under $800. That loophole has been closed. So that means your fast fashion, your little trinkets, your little knickknacks, things that people traditionally got from across the seas for little price, they're not here anymore. Now, the immediate impact that we think is going to have is on like Shein and Fashion Nova, but we overlook retailers like Family Dollar and the Dollar Tree and your local merchants at your swap meet or your swap shop that sell the small trinkets and whatnot that you and I know they source from overseas, but now they're selling them here. They're impacted. Their inventory is negatively impacted now. They can't get those little knickknacks and things like that. And that's bad. So not only is it preventing people from getting goods and services, it's also impacting some families' ability to provide for their families. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell just keep the Fed interest rates the same, even though Donald Trump was pressuring him to lower the interest rates.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite heightened uncertainty, the economy is still in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer-run objective. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. The risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation appear to have risen, and we believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. I will have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were likely driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing complicated GDP measurement last quarter.
And some people don't understand what the impact of that is, so I'll tell you. What Jerome Powell said when Fed Chair Jerome Powell said when he kept the interest rates the same, he said that it was the economic uncertainty of the United States that we're in right now that led them to keep this interest rate steady. Because he says they don't know whether to react to the pending rise in unemployment or the pending rise in prices that we're seeing happen. Now, this is the Federal Reserve Chair saying that we're in for a rough road right now. So they're going to keep interest rates the same because they don't want to impact anybody negatively if they raise interest rates and make you have to pay higher for those things. But they don't want to give a false sense of confidence by lowering the interest rates and having people think, oh, well, the economy is good. They lowered the interest rates, so we got to be doing good. No, that's what Trump wanted. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said, no, we're going to keep it the same because we don't know which way the economy is going to go because of your policies. And there's a lot of uncertainty out there. So this is another way that those policies are impacting our life negatively. We're seeing these impacts at the ports. You're seeing truck drivers and people at the ports are not working as much because those ships are not coming in packed with goods like they used to. So you have the dock workers and the truckers that are missing out on hours.
Normally we have a ship here, we'd have a ship over there too and a ship over there, but we don't. We're waiting.
With summer just around the corner, crews here at the Port of Everett say this is typically when business gets busier. Instead, they're now seeing the opposite.
Everybody just wants to work. The rest of the world's trading, and yet we're pumping the brakes.
Officials with the Port of Everett say going into this year, they already budgeted for a 10% trade reduction, based in part off the impacts they saw with tariffs in 2018. But it's now looking like the impacts will be much greater.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and when there's uncertainty, people don't like to make big financial decisions. And at the Port of Everett here, we specialize in high-value, oversized project cargo, and so what we're seeing is forecasting of reduced ship calls.
The union representing longshoremen who work at the port say they're already seeing a large drop in available work, with concerned members constantly calling for updates.
Oh, they ask every week, what can we expect next week? What can we expect next month? And I'd like to be able to tell them that we're going to get busy next month, but I don't lie to them. I just show them what the schedule has, and it's not good.
The front line of President Trump's trade war with China and the 145% tariffs he put on that country is right here at our nation's busiest twin ports, Long Beach and Los Angeles.
Ports here in Southern California account for 30% of the nation's exports, 40% of the nation's imports, and about half of the business runs through China. If these tariffs stay in place, experts say it will definitely have an impact on consumers.
The worst case scenario is less choice on store shelves and online buying, prices spike, and families are really becoming tighter with their budgets.
Gene Soroka is the Port of LA executive director.
We only have 7 ships in port today. Normally, on a Wednesday, you'd see 12 to 14 vessels.
He says incoming cargo, everything from clothing, electronics to household goods, will plummet starting next week.
What we're seeing now is that cargo coming in from Asia will be down by about 35% until we get some semblance or signals that trade deals are on the way.
I don't know about you, but I'll be pissed off if I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and haul myself down to a dock to unload a ship, only to get there and the ship is half full and half the crew is being sent home because they're like, well, or being that trucker that's pulling up to the dock, waiting on the long line, only to be told, hey, so the ship came in and it was only half full and we've already loaded up the trucks that we had. So, yeah, we ain't got a load for you, bro. That is the reality that some of these dock workers and truckers are waking up to. And that's because of these tariffs. The United States of America is not in a position of leverage to where we can even play this tariff game. You've seen for weeks how Donald Trump has said, oh, China's coming to the table. They're coming to the table to negotiate. And just now, today, it was admitted that, they haven't been negotiating because China doesn't give a damn. And we had countries position themselves and hurt us in the process of positioning themselves to withstand those tariffs. Case in point, Channel 7 News down here in South Florida just had a story about how we have tomato farmers that are basically mowing over unpicked crops because they can't compete with Mexico flooding the market with cheap tomatoes to kind of offset Trump's tariff threat.
Perfectly good tomatoes are being plowed over instead of picked. It's a sad scene happening in South Florida.
You can't even afford to pick them right now between the cost of the labor and the inputs that go in. It's more cost effective for the farmers to just plow them right now.
Heather Moling understands the struggles that farmers are facing right now. She's part of the family that runs the Homestead produce stand. Robert is here.
These are local tomatoes here.
She says farmers used to get $16 for a box of tomatoes. It's now down to $3 or $4.
Just a horrible price. Some of that has been from what Mexico is bringing into the country, and some of that has been just with the threat of the tariffs.
Farmers say President Trump's tariffs and the threat of tariffs have caused thousands of acres of tomatoes to go to waste because the cost to pack and pick them is more than what tomatoes are selling for this year.
It costs you, close to, probably over $10 a box, close to $11 a box to break even. So if you're selling tomatoes for $3 and $4 and $5, you can just figure out pretty quickly what the losses are.
What's the feeling from farmers right now? Like, how are you feeling?
Not very good, to be honest with you.
And with the current policies on tariffs and immigration, Florida farmers are not planting a secure future.
Yes, Mexico, in response to Donald Trump's tariff threat, they didn't cower. They didn't, shake in their boots. They didn't come to the table and say, oh, my God, Donald Trump, please don't, please don't, please don't, please don't. No, they flooded the market with cheap tomatoes and they made their money. They said, well, if you're going to increase tariffs, or we're just going to flood the market with cheap tomatoes to the point where everybody's going to buy from us and none from you. So you're going to lose money. Your tomato farmers are going to lose money, which they're doing right now in South Florida and all across the United States of America. And not only that, we're losing out in the avocado race, watermelons. Our South Florida, our farmers can't keep up with this. Our infrastructure in the United States of America is not built to take on instant production like Donald Trump and so many of his supporters are saying that we can do. Oh, we're just going to build the factories here. There's no tariff if you build here. What infrastructure do we have in the United States of America to build right now here? He talks about the chip maker that's going to build a factory here, but how long is that going to take to build? These things take time. And in the meantime, you and I are suffering as a result of these policies and this economic just poop show that's going on. I'm trying to clean up my language, y'all. I'm trying to get this monetization thing right, y'all. So I'm trying to not cuss as much. But these economic policies that Donald Trump has put in place are detrimental to our lives. Not only just the tariff policies, but everything that he's done so far is straight out of the Project 2025 playbook that so many of you all swore up and down was not real. And now we're seeing it play out and it's impacting our lives negatively. Part of the reason why I'm doing this stuff, because why should white guys have all the fun? There's a lot of people that will say these policies are going to reset the table or put us in a good position. We're seeing the higher prices now at the grocery store because of the decrease in supply. When you have a decrease in supply and the demand stays the same or increases, that leads to inflation. All before the election, Donald Trump, campaigned and said, these tariffs were not going to do a thing and weren't going to impact people. You have a guy in Donald Trump that wants to take credit for the good parts of the economy, but when it comes to the bad things in the economy, he wants to blame Joe Biden. I don't know about you, but I clearly remember when Joseph Biden was in office and gas prices were up, grocery prices were up, price of living was up. Everybody blamed Joe Biden, including Donald Trump. And the resounding logic was that it was Joe Biden's fault because Joe Biden is president. So when you're president, it's your fault. So all of these issues that we're having right now, no matter what a MAGA supporter says, no matter what Donald Trump says, this is Donald Trump's fault, y'all. Yes, Donald Trump is negatively impacting our life. Peace. Love you guys.